So before I get to something that made me laugh, Johntay Cook, one-time Oregon commit. Well, not actually. He was never actually committed to Oregon, but internet sleuthing led many of people to believe it was going to happen. It didn't end up happening. It could have happened. It would have made sense. But Johntay Cook, the former Texas five-star wideout, not committing to Oregon. He's committing to Washington. He has committed to Washington, and he'll be a part of the Huskies receiving corps next year. I am just waiting for the tweets about how Washington was just upping the NIL and outbid Oregon for the former five-star. Or does that only work when the shoe's on the other foot? Oh, yeah. Funny how that works. So, a couple of things here. First of all, I absolutely would have taken Johntay Cook as, maybe not quite as proven Evan Stewart sort of transfer at the wideout spot. The second thing is, speaking of Evan Stewart, what does this mean? If Oregon didn't get him, maybe Washington outbid him. Maybe Washington gave him a better pitch. I mean, there's a ton of talent in that Oregon wide receiver room. Could you guarantee Johntay Cook that he'd see the field in a significant way? You have a better chance of doing that up in Seattle than you do in Eugene next year because of the amount of wide receiver talent that Junior Adams and the staff have recruited over the last couple cycles. So this makes me wonder two things. Again, I don't know the answer to these things, but it makes me wonder about them. Number one, does Johntay Cook, moving on to Washington, remember this is a guy who once changed his Instagram bio pic to him in Oregon gear once entering the transfer portal. Does this mean that Evan Stewart is coming back to make the receiver room even more crowded? Or does it mean that Oregon has another plan for a transfer wide receiver to come in? Or both? I don't know. But those are the two things that I wonder. So I wanted to start with that. But as I mentioned earlier in the show, there's something that made me laugh. So Jeremiah Smith is an incredible football player. I mean, this guy, every Oregon fan is hoping that DeCorian Moore next year produces the way Jeremiah Smith has this year. You talk about delivering on recruiting hype. Jeremiah Smith is that sort of guy. He's more than just one-handed catches. He is incredibly good, physically ready to go, and he's a physical wide receiver. So he got asked about the late offensive pass interference penalty that may very well have cost Ohio State the game against Oregon back on October 12th. You can't know how it played out, but it's one of the more clear and obvious offensive pass interference calls I have ever seen. He was asked about it. He said, quote, "I think about that call probably every day. It was a crazy call." Oh, man. The DB was holding me. I just cleared his hands. Oh, it was so good. "I guess receivers can't be physical in football anymore." That's rich. "But DBs could hold 10 yards, 15 yards down the field. It's behind me," clearly. "I know the move here on out when the DB is grabbing me. I guess can't be physical as a receiver in college football anymore. We'll just see how things play out in this game." End quote. Okay. Ohio State fans picking up on this, you throw all the smoke my way that you would like. I will die on this hill, not just because the flag was actually thrown, but because it's one of the most clear and obvious pass interference calls I've ever seen. Number one, Nico Reed does not come up and initiate contact to hold him. Reed is sitting 8 to 9 yards off, squatting on a route around the first down. Smith runs up and just hits the ejector button to launch him in the other direction. He turns his head around and turns his body 180 degrees. This is just a clear and obvious call. Number one. Number two, it's behind me. Seems like it. Now the question was asked to him, to be fair. So he's going to answer it, of course, but you could have said, "I'm focused on this game, not thinking about it in the past." But kind of seems like you're thinking about it, at least a little bit out there. Number three, I have increased my media tirade against this over the last couple of months in particular, as I've noticed it more and more in college and in the NFL. The most underthrown flag in all of college football is offensive pass interference. By the way, on Jeremiah Smith's touchdown against Ohio State, 100% missed offensive pass interference earlier in the route. He's on the far side of the field. He ends up on the near side near the pylon to create the separation from Brandon Johnson. He runs up. He just barrels into him, pushes off, and creates separation. I think that defensive players get the short end of the stick in a lot of different ways, and this is one of them. And if you watch the Ohio State-Michigan game, the one touchdown Ohio State scored in that game, Smith again got away with offensive pass interference. So the fact that he didn't in that spot against Oregon, kudos to the officials for having the guts to throw the flag when it was the right call, because I understand and very much appreciate the instinct of an official to say, I don't want to be involved in a big moment, but that's how flagrantly against the rule Smith's actions were. But going into this Ohio State game, this is something I'm 100% going to watch for. He's been this guy all year. And this is not to say it's the only reason he's a great player. It is certainly something that I have consistently seen him do, and it is a matter of whether the officials will call it. But when you run up into a defensive back, you initiate contact, and then you extend your arm to push him in the other direction, that's offensive pass interference. Letter of the law. Letter of the law. So that made me laugh. Just the whole, he's reliving the play in his head, and he goes, it's behind me. Well, okay. All right. And then this whole thing projecting an image of, DBs can just do whatever they want, and offensive players can't do. Oh my gosh. Please spare me. Please spare me. Miss me with that. It's darn near impossible to be a defensive player now. Can't hit a quarterback high, can't hit a quarterback low. You can't touch receivers. DBs routinely get called for pass interference when the receiver is initiating the contact. So anyway, end of rant. Curious as to your thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. A couple more things. Jordan James and Josh Connerly both were asked about their futures in 2025 and both correctly said that they are not thinking about that. They're focused on the game. I don't know why anyone is asking them this question right now. First of all, that's the only answer you should get. At no point in time going into a potential national championship run, where that is the clear and obvious goal for Oregon here, should you have a player out there saying, yeah, I'm going to the draft after this season, when he doesn't have to. But these players have been media trained and also just have, common sense. Like, frankly, I'm annoyed that somebody asked the question. I don't know who asked it to either of them, but that is not what should be on the top of your mind. After the season, fine. Heck, someone asked it to Bo Nix after the Pac-12 championship game last year. Not an easy question for Bo to have to think about in that moment, but that's a more appropriate time to ask the question. So I object to that. But Josh Connerly, saying, well, he's unsure. Oregon just brought in 2 tackles in the portal. Alex Harkey from Texas State, Isaiah World from Nevada. They are not coming in here to sit. Those 2 guys, I fully expect them to be Oregon starting tackles next year, or at least heavily in the rotation with, other offensive tackles they've recruited in the last couple cycles. Janoris Wilson's been the jumbo guy. Kavika Rogers has played tackle in the past during his career. But those 2 guys, I think they were both brought in because the staff knows Connerly's going to the NFL. But you just don't want to put something out there like that publicly. Jordan James, though, that's a legitimate question. He might not actually know. He might wait until the playoffs and see how he performs and whether that impacts his draft grade. There's currently an Oregon running back who's doing even better than I thought he would in the NFL. It's Bucky Irving. He's over 1,000 yards on the season. If you gave an offensive rookie of the year to a non-quarterback, it would probably be Bucky Irving. And I thought he'd have a role in the NFL. I did not see this coming from him. And I'm stoked to be wrong about that because he looks awesome week in and week out. So that's really great. I really don't have, as I just sit here and ponder, Jordan James in the NFL or Jordan James back, I can see it either way. He's had a great year. Could he have a better one next year? Technically, sure. I don't know. That one feels like a legitimate coin flip to me. But Connerly, no. Connerly's getting way too much buzz. His draft stock is shooting through the roof right now. So I fully expect Connerly to go to the NFL. I'll wrap up with this. Nothing super special. Oregon men's basketball blew out Weber State. Was never close. Remember that time where they started slow against teams they should blow out? Haven't been doing that recently. So Big Ten play now begins with the calendar. Once the calendar flips to 2025, Illinois is up first, so a ranked opponent in Big Ten play right out of the gate. Dana's team is 12-1, guys. So if the Rose Bowl doesn't go how we're all hoping, you get ready for this to become an Oregon basketball pod real quick. Not actually, but I've been hyping them up all year. They're 12-1. Their only loss is a banked desperation heave 3 to a top 25 team that just beat number 14 Gonzaga, by the way. So that's UCLA, of course. So everything was good. Guys are hitting shots. Defense looks scary. I mean, everything about it. Everything about it. I'm here for the way Dana's team is playing right now. I am legitimately excited, and I'm kind of stashing that energy and excitement for a rainy day. Hopefully that rainy day is January 22nd when we're in post-football morning, but got to get through the Buckeyes first. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. Have a wonderful rest of your day, and go Ducks.